All right, let's dive in. You've probably heard a million times that our universe is expanding, right? Everything rushing outward from the Big Bang. But what if we've been watching the movie play forward when the most interesting part is what happens when you hit rewind? Today, we're exploring a seriously mind-bending idea, a cosmos that's actually pulling inward, a story of creation, but in reverse. So pretty much everything we've learned about the cosmos is built on that one idea, expansion. But, the laws of physics might have a few surprises up their sleeve. So let's take a trip into a kind of mirror image universe, one that rewinds that familiar story of the Big Bang and heads toward a very different and way more dramatic ending. Okay, so here's the big one. What if it was all shrinking instead? And this isn't just some sci-fi plotline. The actual equations that describe how space-time works, the very fabric of our reality, they totally allow for this to happen. We're talking about a universe in full retreat, collapsing back in on itself. Okay, so this really breaks it down for us. In our universe, the one we know, galaxies are flying away from us. That stretches out their light, and that's the redshift we always hear about. But in a shrinking universe, bam, it's the total opposite. Galaxies are rushing towards us, so their light gets all scrunched up, creating a blue shift. And instead of the universe getting colder over time, it would just get hotter and hotter. And galaxies, yeah, they're not running away. They're all coming together for one final cosmic group hug. Right. So you've got to be asking, what could possibly flip that switch? What could hit the brakes on this massive cosmic expansion and throw the whole thing into reverse? Well, the answer, it turns out, lies with the most mysterious, most powerful thing in the entire cosmos. And that, my friends, is dark energy. The simplest way to think about it is like a kind of anti-gravity. It's this weird pressure baked into space itself that's been pushing everything apart for billions of years. It's the engine that's flooring the accelerator on expansion. But what if that engine could suddenly switch from push to pull? And just look at these numbers. They're absolutely wild. Dark energy makes up almost 70% of everything. The stuff that makes you, me, the stars, the planets, that's just a tiny 5% sliver. Dark energy isn't just some background character, it is running the show. And because it's so dominant, even a tiny change in how it behaves would completely rewrite the future of, everything. And this is the trigger. This is the whole shebang. If this thing we call dark energy suddenly decided to change its mind, if that pushing force became a pulling force, then gravity would instantly win the cosmic tug-of-war it's been losing for eons. The expansion would grind to a halt, stop, and then reverse. The great collapse would finally begin. So what would it actually look like to be in this great convergence? This wouldn't be some sudden explosion. At first, you wouldn't notice a thing. This is a slow-motion event, playing out over billions, and I mean billions of years, as the entire cosmos begins its long, slow journey back home. Okay, let's walk through this timeline because it's a wild ride. The first clue would be that light from far-off galaxies would start to shift to blue. Then, you know how we're on a collision course with Andromeda? Well, imagine that happening everywhere, with every galaxy. Later on, that faint glow left over from the Big Bang would start to heat up until the whole night sky was glowing. And in those final eras, the supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies would merge, just gobbling up everything in a shrinking space. And yeah, what about life? Well, spoiler alert, the outlook is not great. As the sky itself starts to cook and radiation gets blasted everywhere, forget habitable zones, they'd be toast. Stars would burn way faster and hotter under all that pressure before collapsing. And eventually, things would get so dense, so crushed, that the very atoms that make up you and me could just be torn apart. All right, so after all those billions of years of slow motion falling, things are about to get real fast. The final moments of the universe wouldn't be slow at all. They'd be an unbelievably violent, chaotic rush toward a single point. This is the grand finale. This is the big crunch. I mean, we're talking about conditions so extreme, our rulebook for physics just gets thrown out the window. The fundamental forces that hold atoms together, even the speed of light, all these things we think of as constant could start to change. The very laws that hold everything together, they would just break. Okay, and if that wasn't mind-bending enough for you, get this. The idea is that as space shrinks, time itself could actually start to speed up. The final moments would rush by faster and faster until your sense of a second, an hour, a year. It would all just dissolve into a meaningless blur as everything hurled toward the end. This is it, the ultimate end. I mean, think about it. When space itself is gone, where can anything be? There's just no room left. Not for galaxies, not for stars, not even for the tiniest particles. Everything that ever was gets crushed back into pure, raw energy. And that's it. That's the big crunch. It's literally the Big Bang in reverse. Instead of everything exploding out of a single point of infinite density, what's called a singularity, it's everything coming rushing back into one, the ultimate destination for everything that has ever existed. But wait, does the story really have to end there, at that one single point? Or could the end just be another beginning? Some physicists think the story might not actually be over, that the end of one universe could be the birth of the next. This leads to one of the wildest questions in all of physics. If the whole universe is running in reverse, could the arrow of time flip too? I mean, could you actually watch stars unburning or planets unforming? Now, there are some pretty big rules in physics, like entropy, that make this almost impossible. But it's a heck of a thought, isn't it? So, what's on the other side of that crunch? Basically, we've got two main theories on the table. One is, that's it. A final singularity, the absolute end of space, the end of time, game over. But then there's the other idea, which is honestly a lot cooler. It's called the Big Bounce. The idea is that the crunch gets so incredibly dense that quantum physics takes over and forces it to rebound, triggering a brand new Big Bang, a whole new universe, born from the ashes of the old one. So whether it's the final curtain call or the start of a whole new show, thinking about a shrinking universe just completely flips our ideas on their head. It's not about endless expansion, it's about a grand return. It makes you think about gravity in a whole new way, not just as the force that keeps your feet on the ground, but as this eternal pull drawing everything that ever was all the way back home.